One day, an expert was speaking to a group of business students, and to drive home a point, used an illustration I'm sure those students will never forget. After I share it with you, you won't forget it either. As this man stood in front of a group of high-powered overachievers, he said, "Okay, time for a quiz." He pulled out a big jar and set it on the table in front of him. Then he produced about a dozen fist-sized rocks and carefully placed them one at a time into the jar. When the jar was filled to the top and no more rocks would fit inside, he asked, "Is this jar full?" Everyone in the class said yes. Then he said, "Really?" and reached under the table and pulled out a bucket of gravel. Then he dumped some gravel and shook the jar, causing pieces of gravel to work themselves down into spaces between the big rocks. He smiled and asked the group once more, "Is this jar full?" But this time the class was on to him. "Probably not," is what they answered. "Good," he replied, and he reached under the table and brought out a bucket of sand. And he started dumping sand in and went into all the spaces between the rocks and the gravel. Once more, he asked the question, "Is this jar full?" "No," the class shouted. Once again, he said, "Good." Then he grabbed a pitcher of water and began to pour it into the jar until the jar was full to the brim. Then he looked up at the class and asked, "What is the point of this illustration?" One eager student raised his hand and said, "The point is, no matter how full your schedule is, if you try really hard, you can always fit some more things into it." "No," the speaker replied, "that is not the point. The truth is, this illustration teaches us if you don't put the big rocks in first, you'll never get them in at all." What are the big rocks in your life? A project that you want to accomplish? Time with your loved ones, your education, your finances, a community organization, teaching or mentoring others? Remember to put those big rocks in first, or you will never get them in at all.